Hi, this is Dr. Kimberley Linert, and you're listening to Incredible Life Creator Podcast. My guest today is Katherine Loranger. Loranger. Still not saying it right. I'm sorry.
It's all good.
Katherine is a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute, the premier training center for transformational coaching. Katherine can help you create a life that you love living. Katherine specializes in helping heart-centered entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, business owners, dreamers, and seekers build their dreams, accelerate their results, and create fulfilling lives. For over 25 years, Katherine has been researching, studying, and implementing transformational success principles. This has given her the insight and ability to achieve many of her own dreams, both personally and professionally, while helping others do the same. In addition to her coaching certification, Katherine holds a BSc in psychology and MED in counseling, is an NLP practitioner, has experience in business education and non-for-profit sectors, has served in a range of leadership roles, and has been awarded for her effectiveness as a mentor and coach. Katherine's workshops and coaching programs help people break through limitations and achieve greater results than they've known before. If you are looking to gain clarity, confidence, and achieve your next level of success while enjoying the highest levels of fulfillment in the life, Katherine's coaching programs can help you get there. Welcome to the podcast, Katherine.
Hello, Dr. Kimberly. How are you today?
I am great. And please say your full name so people can understand.
Oh, it's Loranger. Yeah, Loranger.
Loranger.
It's
Okay.
French, right?
Yes, I practiced it and I still got it wrong. So
It's
I want to
all
make
good.
people
It's
know
all
how
good.
to say it.
Yeah, it's all good.
So we kind of connected because of some mutual friends. We're both have been trained with Nayurka, and she's one of my beloved mentors. So happy to meet someone else who loves her. And but just so people can get to know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, like how you started out, how you got to be doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. So I've had a really interesting background, and I know that we all have had an interesting background. And so for me, my dad was in the military, and my family moved every couple of years. He was a radar tech, and so we were in very isolated areas. And he retired at the age that he would retire, but my parents had children a little bit later in life, so they were a little bit older. We were still pretty young. And we retired and moved to a homestead in the middle of the bush. And so I was listening to one of your other guests, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like a very similar story. And so we lived in a place, it was a 100-year-old log cabin. It was boat access only. My mom was a teacher, so we did homeschooling, and it was just an amazing, remarkable experience. And so that was, I think that was one of those kind of foundational experiences where I really connected with nature, really got to live into a rhythm that was a little bit different, and really didn't understand or didn't realize that it was actually quite different until I kind of went to school in the city or in the town and realized that we'd had a pretty unconventional upbringing.
Mhm.
And so I was always really, really involved in school and leadership types of things. Went to university, didn't really know what I wanted to do, and ended up doing a Bachelor of Science in Psych and then a Bachelor of Arts in Women's Studies. And I thought, well, I've been helping a lot of people. I'm a peer helper. I actually started the first university-based sexual assault center in Canada as a student. And I was kind of in the helping field. So I thought I'll apply for a master's in counseling. And if I get in, then that's what I'll do, because I think that's what I should do. And so I did, and I got in and did that and worked in that field for quite some time, and then moved into the nonprofit sector. I worked at a post-secondary institution at a university. And then when I met my husband, we actually decided to work on a business together in the construction industry. So I went from counseling and inspiring and supporting to construction. And there were lots of things that were really amazing about that and that I really loved. And I loved working with my husband. A lot of people ask, like, how could you ever do that? How could your marriage survive? And there were definitely challenging aspects to it, but through that process, we actually got closer. because of our shared commitment to putting our marriage first. And then when we completed our business, I had an opportunity to really look into my soul and to reflect back and say, what am I really feeling called to do? And how am I really feeling called to serve? And so I decided to become a life coach. It was something I'd been thinking about for quite some time. And my husband actually had sent me an email that he received. He's a student of Bob Proctor's. And so he had received a message about a coaching program, and he sent it to me, and I looked at it, I read it, I watched the videos, and I just felt like I had come home. Like, when you find your people, right? And you're like, oh, that feeling of like this, okay, this is where I belong. This is where I belong. And so I enrolled and went through the training. And now I serve people, I support people in living lives that they love and really tuning into who it is that they're meant to be and how to live a purposeful life and how to live a meaningful life. And I feel like I have the best job in the world.
It's wonderful. And I know you're also very integrated into your community. How important is community?
Mm. Community is, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that it's everything, right? It's everything. And so I'm a very active volunteer, have always had a service orientation to wherever I am, and have always looked to serve in my community wherever I live. And I think that this year, like with COVID, we've really had an opportunity to really take a look at what that actually means. And I think a lot of people, a lot of my clients and a lot of the people that I work with and people that I know, we've had this opportunity to pause, right? And some people are looking at it and they're not navigating it well, right? And not to say that it's not challenging, because it is. My mom actually passed at the beginning of the process. My father was stuck in my husband was stuck in Africa for 6.5 months during the beginning of the pandemic. So there were definitely some challenging aspects, but I think it brought to light like what's actually important for people. And it's community, right? It's family, it's community. And for people who've had a chance to pause and really look past the condition of the pandemic and ask themselves, like, really, what do I love about what's happening in my life right now? Right? Spending more time with family, slowing down a little bit. Yeah. And reflecting on how important community is. Right? So neighbors helping each other. I've gotten to know our neighbors so much better through this whole experience, and people really stepping up. And I work a lot with business owners and in the business community, and just seeing how, how those businesses that are, they're the ones that you go to when your child's sports team needs a donation, or, when you need help with something. And now the community is really coming together to give back and support, and really being conscious about the decisions that they're making and where to invest their dollars and make their purchases. Yeah.
That's true. And yeah, I did see that, especially when all this started, happening. We have a page on Facebook for our neighborhood, and there was this someone put a comment on there. She said, "I'm pregnant and I'm out trying to buy toilet paper."
Oh.
And one of our neighbors says, "Don't you dare go out. You go back home. I'm coming over and I'm bringing you some toilet paper,"
Right? Yeah. And how, just how I just get chills, like how lovely that people are coming together in that way. Right. Oh, yeah.
I think it's wonderful. And I think a lot of good has come out of it. There's a lot of stress and uncomfort, discomfort, frustration in certain situations, but I have seen people start businesses and thrive.
Yeah.
I've seen businesses who started kind of falling apart go online and again thrive. So we're flexible people. We're creative, we're innovative. And this just gives us a chance to show how much we are.
Exactly right. And for those people who have embraced that mindset, right? I think Napoleon Hill says that every adversity has the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And so if we can approach those challenging times in our life with that perspective, right? Of course, honor the challenge, not to dismiss that it is, very challenging for a lot of people, but to just have a part of your mind open to the possibility that there could be a benefit, right? There could be a benefit, and to be like, like, well, if there was a benefit, what would that be? What might that be? And it just opens you up to a whole different level of experience.
Yeah. And I love to do that. I love to turn things inside out, okay, where is the good here? Where is the good? I want to find it.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to look pretty hard, but
sometimes you really do have to look pretty hard.
Yeah. And sometimes it's time too, right? Sometimes it's time where you can see the good that came out of it. And I have a friend who's has some friends that are going through some pretty significant health issues right now. And we were having a conversation, and it came up that, like, this is life. This is part of the experience of life, that there is life, there is death, there is joy, there is suffering, there is, like, it's the full spectrum of it, right? It's the full spectrum. And to be able to open your heart to the fullness of that experience, where I think, there can be a tendency to want to close off and protect, right? And maybe put those walls up. But then that just gets stored in the body. That energy, that experience gets stored. So if you can open to it and feel the feelings and let them flow, right? Don't pack a tent there. Don't get a phone number at that postal address, but just like experience them and let them go, and then open yourself to what the possibility might be.
Exactly. Yeah. And the other thing I noticed about what's happening now is it seems like someone came in and just turned the bright light on. They came in and turned the bright light on. And the people doing things that are not so great, they're being exposed. And the people that are doing wonderful things, they're shining. We're saying, oh, wow, there's the unsung heroes. We didn't know they've been a hero all along.
Yeah.
And when it comes to our relationships, it's like, sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't know that this was such a poor relationship. Oh, how can I make it better? I didn't realize, the elephant in the room, it's been sitting here for years, but I didn't know because the light wasn't turned on. I turned on the light. Oh, there's an elephant. There's an elephant in the room.
Yeah, exactly. And, and I think that it's been for, prior to COVID, it was easy to be distracted with the ways of the world, right? So maybe your relationship's not going so well, but you're going to work every day, or you've got your activities, you've got your friends. And so you don't have to, like you said, shine that light on it, because it's just really taking up a small portion, and you can kind of like pretend that it's not even a thing, right?
Exactly.
But then when all of a sudden you're with this person and you're like, I don't even know who you are. And I hear that from people, right? Or just the stress of the situation. If you haven't worked through things, or you haven't developed that type of communication, it's going to bubble up to the surface. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, before we came on, you were telling me that the necklace you have is from Turkey.
Yes.
And
yes.
I love to travel. I know a lot of people love to travel. So just to take us kind of on a ride somewhere, because we're not really going anywhere.
Not today.
Not today. What are some of your favorite places that you've visited or traveled to, and why did you enjoy it?
Oh, the first one that pops to mind is Chile. So my husband was doing a contract down there, and when he was finished, I actually met him, and I flew into the tiny little town that he was working out of, and we just rented a car and we just explored. And it was so welcoming. It was so safe. We felt so comfortable. And the country was so diverse. So at the south, you've got like Antarctica, right? So we were actually in the Patagonia area for part of it, and trekking in the mountains and going horseback riding and seeing icebergs and penguins, and that was so cool. And then as we went north, which is like for us would be south, but north for them, it got warmer and warmer and warmer. And we actually stayed with friends. He made some amazing friends. They welcomed us into their home. We met their family, like their extended family and their friends, and just like such a beautiful country, and such a diverse country too, in terms of geography, in terms of climate, in terms of wildlife. They've got these really amazing marble caves, which are actually one of the, I don't know if it's like an official wonder of the world, but they are amazing. It's this, I think, the longest lake in South America. And these caves have been carved out over millennium by the waves in the water. And so they're just these beautiful blue and gray, swirls of color. And we asked one of the persons that my husband was working with, like, where should we go? What should we do? And he's like, oh, you should go to this place. And so we're driving, and it's like back roads, and we don't, are we going to get there? Are we not? We don't know. So we get to this little town, and the guy said, he told us, when you get there, don't hire a boat in the town. Drive down the road. There's a guy that lives close to the caves. That's the guy you want to take. So we thought, well, we'll just check to see if there's a boat in town that's going to go. But we'll go to the guy down the road, but we just want to make sure that there's a backup in case that guy's not there. And then all of a sudden we're like on the boat from town. And I was like this, because it was so choppy. It was like this, it was crazy. And I grew up on the West Coast. My family homesteaded in a boat access only place. So I'm used to open water, but it was crazy. And I was just like, oh my gosh, is this going to be over? And then we get, I don't know, like 20 minutes down the lake. And sure enough, there's the guy that we should have gone to see. And just around from him is the caves. So, but yeah, Chile was an amazing, amazing country. Yeah. Yeah. We were actually supposed to go to Belize last March to go diving with whale sharks. But of course that got delayed. So fingers crossed we'll be able to go this year.
Yeah. Wow. And, that sounds like such an adventure, and thanks for sharing it. And what you're talking about is experience. It's just that time, spending time with someone that you care about, someone you enjoy being with, and then just having an experience.
Yeah.
So right now, a lot of us are at home. I know my friend and I, a lot of times on the weekend when everything was shut down, we would ride out and find different farmers markets, because at least the grocery store was open. But we'd go and we'd spend an hour looking at all the food from the different countries, because we had to do something different to have an experience.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so fun. And so creative, right? And you could just go so many ways with that. Like have like a theme night, like you pick, a friend of mine was telling me she was at a virtual birthday party, and it was a cooking lesson from Bali. So they'd actually found these people in Bali to do a cooking lesson. And then they had people all over the country they had to get their ingredient list. And they had this like virtual Zoom cooking lesson on Balinese cuisine. Wow. Right?
Wow. That is a fun birthday party. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they got all dressed up and had lots of fun. So like you said, like experiences, right?
Yeah. You just have to make, do with whatever you have. My brother actually has 9 children. And one of the older children said, we are having a theme week. This was early on in COVID.
Yeah.
And she made the rule. She said, this night we're going to dress like this. This night you're going to dress up like a monster. This night you're going to dress up like a Disney character. And I mean, every night at dinner, they had something different for the whole week. And she said, this is mandatory. You can nobody can say they're not going to participate.
Oh, that is so fun. That is so fun. And what an amazing way to bring the family together. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Because we get to choose how we're going to respond to what life brings. Right? Exactly. We can't control the content, but we can sure choose how we're going to show up for it.
And talking about community, I was spying on your Facebook page. And you are an author and a contributor to a local magazine. Do you want to talk to people about that and what you're doing with that?
Yeah, I would love to. So it's a new e-zine, I guess. It's called Sharp Women Heartland, and it's for women. And the Heartland is kind of the area that I'm in, and so I do an article on relationships. And yeah, it's super fun, super fun. So giving people tips and ideas and strategies, and I'm kind of taking them right now. I'm taking them through a process to get clarity on their relationships, and to really, take a look at an honest look, like you said, shining the light, right? Because we can still choose to not take a look at it. So if you want to have a different result, you need to start by looking at where you are.
Mhm.
And then I'm actually taking them through steps and processes to actually live into a more fulfilling relationship, or to manifest a relationship if they're not currently in one.
Beautiful. Yeah. And as we're recording this now, this will come out in a few months, but right now we're getting really close to Valentine's Day.
Yes, we are. And my birthday is next week too.
Oh, well, happy birthday
Mhm.
ahead of
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. So it's a birthday Valentine's Day week for me.
Yeah. So, what is some of your best advice for couples?
Hmm. One of the things that was an absolute game changer in my marriage was my husband and I started a gratitude practice together. So every night at bedtime, and we started this when we were going through, not relationship wise, but just in our life, there was some really challenging stuff going on. And of course that spills over right into every area. And so at night we started with 3 things that we were grateful for that day.
Mhm.
And it took some rigor, and it took some commitment to, having those days where you can't even see anything to be grateful for. And now that I know what I know, it's like, well, because you're not looking, because there's always something there.
Mhm.
But at that point, I hadn't trained myself to be really open and looking for that. And so starting that practice really shifted our perspective. And then one night he said, "I'm grateful for you."
Aw.
I know. And I was like, oh, like it kind of, it surprised. And I've shared this with him, like I've shared the story with him, but I couldn't say it right away. Right. I couldn't say it right away because I was holding some resentment.
Mm.
Uh, so it took me a couple days to say it back. And we have continued that practice for our entire marriage. And every night, even when he was in Africa,
Mhm.
right, a 6-hour time difference, we would gratitudes. That was our, even if it was by text or on Marco Polo. But the number one thing is always, "I'm grateful for you." And so what that's done is it has absolutely transformed and shifted our relationship, because what you focus on, you will find.
Mhm.
So if you're looking for reasons to be unhappy with your partner, or you're focusing on all the little things, or sometimes big things that are really not, you're not loving, let's say, that's what your attention's going to go on, right? And we have that part of our brain, our reticular activating system, that is saying like, "Oh, you want me to look for this? Okay, I'll look for this." And so it's looking, "Oh, well, they did that one thing that time, or they did that thing, or they looked kind of funny right there. Was that a tone in their voice?" So it's going to look for evidence to support the belief that there's something wrong. Whereas if you tell it, look for what's working,
Mhm.
right? And it's like a plant. Like if you care for a plant and you tend a plant and you shine a light on it and you love on it, it's going to flourish.
Mhm.
Same as your relationship. So look at, and this is not to, so to be clear, if you're in an abusive relationship, if there's, something like that going on, it's not saying, make the best of it. No, that's not what this is about. So this is, with the kind of fundamental understanding that you are in a healthy, safe, relationship, mutual respect, if that's important to you. For me, that's important. But looking for what's working,
Mhm.
looking for what's working. Yeah, and coming from a state of gratitude.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great idea. It's a really
Yeah,
great idea. So
yeah.
there's been times, and especially lately, when you've been apart from your husband for a long period of time.
Mhm.
And any advice on that? If you have to be apart, I know there's people not only apart from their partner sometimes, but apart from like older parents.
Yeah.
I haven't seen my parents in about a year and a half. And it's like, I call them up and I say, you know, mom and dad, I really love you. I really want to see you. I really want to spend time with you. But I don't want to put you at risk because you're in that at risk
Yeah.
population. So
Yeah.
any thoughts on that? How did you guys survive that and keep that closeness?
We had a, so we didn't expect him to be gone for 6.5 months. He was supposed to be 6 weeks the first time, and then home for 3, and then doing 9 weeks out. But COVID hit shortly. He actually left on Valentine's Day last year. And so COVID hit shortly after he left. But we'd made that commitment, right? So we committed to our gratitude practice, and then we FaceTimed every day, and we coordinated our schedule, right? And we communicated. So he was in a camp. There were, we kind of had like our, let's say that this is our talk time, and then also like navigating that. So if he's got something going on, he wants to go and socialize with the people that he's working with. Let's have some expectations, some clear communication, right? Because when you're apart, you don't get all of the nonverbal, you don't get all the, like the little things that let you know that, yeah, we're good, right? And so we would communicate about that and being clear about, okay, so this is what I need, right? Like if you're going to go out with your camp, like your work friends, I'm so okay with that. In fact, I love that for you because I want you to have that, like, I want you to have that kind of experience there, but just send me a text. Just send me a text so I'm not waiting, right? Even though it's COVID, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm still kind of waiting. So just for me, that was just what it was. And then we use Marco Polo. Have you used that?
I haven't used that.
Oh, it was amazing. So it's like a little thing. It's like an app. You can send videos back and forth. So during the day, I would just like send them like little videos of my day and like, hey, honey, look at the dogs are doing this. And, before COVID hit, hanging out with friends and like, hey, how, everybody's like sending them hellos. And so he felt like he was still part of the day to day, right? He saw what was going on. He saw the garden. I'd take him like for a walk in the garden. Oh, look at the peas are coming up. And, just so he felt like he was part of it. And he would do the same for me. So he'd tour me around where he was working and he'd introduce me to the people he was working with. And so that way it felt like we were still really, really connected. And it was, yeah. And then of course the gratitude practice. I think when it's older or elders, if they're not connected to technology in the same way, I think that's a bit more difficult. Right. And so I've certainly, talked to friends, my parents are both passed, but talked to friends where they've gotten mom and dad an iPad and shown them how to use it. So yeah, looking for those things, or even like writing a letter, right? Kind of like thinking about what is that communication style for those people and how do you maintain that connection?
That's true. In the past, I know I wrote a lot of letters and now I rarely write a letter. In fact, I don't know so many people's addresses anymore. You used to have a little book and it had everybody's name and their address and their phone number. And if you wanted to write them a letter, you just look it up and write them a letter. And now I don't even know people's addresses anymore.
Well, and the communication is so quick, right? For the most part, like texting or messaging or whatever. But like for yourself, think about it. Like, how would it feel to get a letter in the mail? Right?
Yeah, amazing. Because we don't hardly get any anymore unless it's, a bill or an advertisement or
right? Yeah. So even like I have like a big stack of cards that I love to send out. So just, like for all different occasions. And when I get inspired, I'll just like, oh, this person popped into my mind. I'm just going to like write them a little card and send it off. Right. Because we just, like you said, like we get bills or advertisements in the mail.
Yeah. So it's fun to get that personal piece of mail.
Yeah, it is. I'll have to get your address. I'll send you one.
Okay. Thank you. So I noticed that you've taught courses on vision boards and also just, opening up your vision, getting clarity. So my background is I'm a behavioral optometrist. So I'm all about vision, clarity, changing your perspective, finding out where you're at, where you want to go. So what has been your experience with that? And what are you teaching people with having to do with clarity and also just turning on the light, opening up the world?
Yeah. I think when you ask that question, I think about my past and my story, right? And I think when we kind of like look back at our life, we can like, oh, that kind of makes sense, right? Looking back. But sometimes when you're in it, it doesn't make so much sense. And certainly for myself, I can absolutely recall times in my life where I really didn't know what was important to me. And I also didn't even know that it would matter to know what it was important to me. Like I've done a lot of work, and that's probably why I was drawn to counseling and now coaching, and the NLP, and also Reiki and healing, because of my experiences and my story, right? Where for much of my life, I didn't feel like what I wanted mattered. I didn't think that I deserved to be happy. I had, a lot of people have those like, I'm not worth it at the core, right? We all kind of have some core elements there that provide us an opportunity for growth. And so because of all of those things, like I kind of like I accomplished a lot of things, but I wasn't really authentically listening to what I wanted out of life and what was really important to me. And so having that vision, and the way that I work with people is by asking a really powerful, it's a very simple question. It's a very simple question, but very powerful, is asking, what would you love? What would you love? And for many of my clients, when I ask them this question, they're kind of like, what does that even mean? Right. And I had one person describe it to me, it was like a mic drop in her head, because we're so conditioned to ask, well, what do I think I can do? Or, what kind of training do I have? Or what do I look like? Or what's the economy doing? Or what's COVID doing? And so we look to the conditions of our life, and we try to kind of fit ourselves into those. And sometimes it's even like, well, what do I think that the neighbors think I should do? Right. And the neighbors probably aren't even thinking about us.
Right.
So, so really asking that question, what would you love? It's just like, and you probably notice that for yourself when you ask it, and for your listeners, like, to just take a moment and take a breath. What would you love? What would you love? Right? You get a different answer. And then it starts to be your heart and your soul that's speaking to you. Yeah. And sometimes, and actually can be pretty common, that the first things that come up might be like crickets, like because you, for so long, you haven't ever even asked yourself what you would want, right? You've been so kind of tied into the conditions of life and your own limiting beliefs that you ask that question, and it's like there's nothing there, but it's just stay with the question. Stay with the question. And so that, what would you love, right? And then really getting clarity on it, and we future pace it. So we have the NIRCA connection. So the NLP, the future pacing, where you ask the question, like 3 years from now, if it all worked out, if someone was waving a magic wand at you and it all worked out, what would you love? And we look at 4 quadrants. And so we look at your health and well-being, and that includes your mental, your emotional, your physical, your spiritual. We look at your vocation or creative expression. And sometimes, what we do for money is not actually what our calling in life is. And so this is about getting at that deeper calling, the deeper, whatever that is. We look at your love and relationships. So we look at the relationships that you have, and maybe the ones that you wish you had. If you're longing for a child or a partner or friendships or whatever that is. And then we look at your time and money freedom. And so we create that crystal clear vision, again, 3 years out. So it helps to relax the subconscious mind. Because if we say, oh, it's going to be a year from now, then our brain's like, well, how are we going to do that? And you never did it before. And who do you think you are? And we start to kind of go back to that same old. So when we ask it out in the future, it softens that paradigm. It softens that belief system, right? And the brain's like, oh, well, maybe that could happen. And so then you start to like just open up a tiny little bit of your mind to the possibility. And then as you get that clarity, right? And a lot of the work that I do too is helping people calibrate the energy of it to their nervous system.
Mhm.
And so then at a vibrational level, they start to feel what it feels like to live that life.
Mhm.
And then they start to make different decisions. They start to access different resources. And that's where the magic happens, right? When they're connected to the vision, they're starting to take action, because you can't just sit on the couch and expect it to come to you. You have to take some steps, right? But you connect to the vision, you have that clarity, you take the step you can take from where you are, baby step.
Mhm.
And then when you're taking that step, all of a sudden you have a brand new vantage point.
Mhm.
And things that you had no idea were even in play start to come to you.
Yes. Yeah. And what I found that's important about that is once you do have that vision of
Mhm.
what you want, is that baby step, is going
Yes.
forward. Because I know maybe it's about 5 years ago now, I had always been very artistic throughout
Mhm.
my life, but I was stuck in the doingness of being a doctor, of raising kids, of,
Yeah.
not really paying attention to something that I really love because I was too busy just living life.
Yeah.
Um, but I said, I really like this in my life, and my kids are getting older, so I signed up for an art class, and then I signed up for
Mhm.
another art class. You know, so just thinking about it and visualizing it is not quite enough, because I've heard so many people think, well, the secret, just think about it and it's going to come to you. But no, you've got to
Uh,
do something. So that started me on a path of, doing more and more art. And,
Yeah.
even recently I had done some stained glass in the past. I love doing that.
Oh,
Well, a few weeks ago, I had a patient come in, and he was a former police officer, did all sorts of other cool things, and he does stained glass. And we got talking. He's like, "Well, why don't you come over and we'll do some stained glass?" I'm like, "Okay." So now I'm going to create this big stained glass panel. I'm so excited about it. But
oh,
that came to me because I was just open and
yeah.
had it in my mind.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't just think about it, but I had it in my mind. It was already working on things. So I
Mhm.
think if you just start working in that direction, no matter how small it is,
Mhm.
it brings more and more and more opportunities, and it gets easier than you think. Because if, like you said, if you think, oh, in a year maybe I'll get it, but it seems like too hard to get to. But if you think in 3 years and then you just like start going towards it, a lot of times things come in a lot faster than you ever thought they would.
Absolutely. I see that all the time. I see that all the time with people. And, and it's like our dreams, all of our dreams have a germination period.
Mhm.
But we don't know what that's going to be, right? Just like different seeds need different conditions to actually germinate. So some seeds need water, some need to go through a fire, some need to be like eaten by an animal and, brought out the other side. So we don't know what the germination requirements of our dream are. So we don't know how long it's going to take, but we know that taking a step is helping that germination, right?
Mhm.
It's helping it. And having that crystal clear vision of where it is that you want to go,
Mhm.
right? And then you take the step that you can take from where you are.
Yes.
And and then you the other thing is you celebrate that step, because
Mhm.
you actually had to exercise the mental faculty of your will to take the step. So you want to like, yay, celebrate. And that helps to ground in that experience of yourself being an action taker.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. And I was thinking about, with all this happening, a lot of times people's gyms and stuff were closed down. And I was one of those people that was just like a diehard gym person. You're like, I was at the gym doing a spin class or yoga or,
Yeah.
swim exercise, anything, always at the gym. And then it closed down. I'm like, so then I didn't know what to do. But then what did I do? I started walking.
Mm.
Not as strenuous as spinning on a bike,
I know.
but I started walking. And then I said, I got one of those total gyms that I bought that I haven't been using. So I pulled that
Oh,
out and I started doing that. So it's just part of it is also getting momentum. So you have
mm,
your vision, you take your
yes.
step, And if you just keep taking one more step, no matter
Yeah,
how small it is, it's the momentum that
absolutely.
just propels you forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I actually, one of the ways I talk about this with my clients is that you create the vision first and you want to calibrate it energetically, because if there's a portion of your vision that has like a bit of an to it, it's going to put a kink in the whole flow of life, bringing it to you.
Mhm.
Right. And so then as you're like feeling into your vision, you're seeing your vision, you're experiencing your vision, then you start to shut yourself down. Right. So you want to calibrate it so that it's like this free flowing, beautiful, expanded vision. And you go into it and you're like, yes, yes, I would love this. I would love this. Right. And then you come back to the present moment and you ask yourself, what is one inspired step I can take to serve my vision?
Mhm.
You connect to the vision, the energy of the vision, having it calibrated. You ask yourself an inspired question, right? What is one inspired step I can take today to serve my vision? And then you actually commit to doing it by when date. So you put it in your calendar
Mhm.
and then you take the step. So it creates this circuit, and taking the step closes the energetic circuit. So
Mhm.
just like you're saying, momentum, right? So the first one, it's going to take a little bit more effort because it's the first one you've taken. But
Mhm.
then you take another one and you take another, and then pretty soon you got momentum. You
Mhm.
got momentum. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
It's a very amazing process. It's just, oh, to see people like stepping into it and transforming their lives and actually like living fuller, freer, more expanded versions of themselves, and seeing, all aspects of their life improve as a result. It just is, it's amazing.
so I'm sure there are people who would love to work with you. So
Yeah.
at this point, I just like you to tell people, how they can connect with you. If you have a website or anything, and I know you have some. You always have something going on, and you have some
Yeah.
courses and something coming up. So why don't you just kind of go through the list of where they can find you and what you have available?
Yeah, for sure. So I love to work with groups. I love, love, love groups. And the reason for that is that you actually um, get into resonance with the group. And so, especially when you're trying to transform your life and you may not have other people in your life right now that understand or support you in doing so, being connected with a group of other people who are also transforming, you can totally use that to help catapult you. So you get the benefit of their transformation. You get the benefit of their questions, of their experiences. I so many times in my groups, people are like, like, wow, I didn't think about it that way, right? Until they hear someone else's experience or the way that someone else describes it. That's what totally resonates for them. So
Mhm.
I love working in groups. I do take some one-on-one clients. Yeah, so I do take some, and I have 12-week, 6-month, and 12-month programs. So it just really depends on where someone's starting. I love to work with entrepreneurs. I have some of my programs that are specific for entrepreneurs. So I have a 12-week for entrepreneurs, and then I actually have a 12-month program for business owners or entrepreneurs or people who want to start a business. And it is a combination of um, mindset training content, bi-monthly masterminding. So like in the purest sense of the form, where we're actually connecting to the quantum field to source ideas to support each other. They also get the accountability there, right? So
Mhm.
that's, like you said, those steps to actually keep taking action toward your vision. Yeah, so that one is actually launching in May. I only take 6 people. It's very exclusive. And in addition to the content, the mindset training, and the masterminding, they're actually going to get 3 different 5-week business processes. So the first one is a business blueprinting. So that's where you're actually defining your business processes. So you can really take a look at if you're going to automate, or if you're going to add technology to it, if you're going to hire people. So you really get a clear understanding of how your business flows and all of your kind of start and stop points and where you need to be involved, where you can outsource. So it really helps to make it streamlined and seamless. The next 5 weeks is branding. So it's looking at business and personal branding and how to create that. And then the next one is either a social media and marketing, or a technology and automation. So how you actually look at building the back end of your business. yeah, and of course I speak, and I'm always happy to do that. Oh, and my website is catalystcoaching.com, and catalyst with a K, like Katherine with a K. So
Okay.
catalystcoaching.com. And of course, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
So just a personal question. What gives
Yeah.
you the most happiness and fulfillment in your life?
Honestly, like seeing people transform, seeing people like having that deep, authentic connection, that relationship, that just being a witness, being supportive, and being that guide. And I, for much of my life, struggled. I did it the hard way. I hit that wall again and again and again and again. And now that I figured it out, I'm like, you don't need to do that. There's a better way. There's an easier, faster way, right? So I love that, seeing people come alive,
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much for being on the podcast today and for all your wisdom and sharing your experiences. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, so I have one last question before we finish.
Okay.
What is your best advice on living an incredible, extraordinary life?
Mm, decide for it. Decide for it, because you get to choose. And how powerful to really comprehend that you get to choose and decide for your own life, and that you're worthy of it.
All right, well, we'll end with that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll talk to you again soon.
I look forward to it.